There we go. Okay, so here we are live on Facebook with Happy Hour in the Spiritual Neighborhood. And I am Deborah Colleen Rose, and we have Luann Morris, and we have Dr. Matthew Pierce, and we have Karen Cutrer with us today. We don't have
Yay!
anybody but our team with Miles of Smiles because we fiddle farted around and didn't get a guest hammered down. So we're just going to do our thing today. We're going to talk about whatever comes to mind. And we were talking about before we went live retreats and what do you look for in a retreat and what is a retreat worth to you? And when you're promoting retreat, why the hell would you be passive aggressive to people? So
Well, okay. So my question about retreats and things like that is when I've come across people that do retreats, it's like they are the best thing in the world. Like, I mean, you cannot convince me otherwise that, my retreat is the best thing in the world. And there's a lot of competition out there in the spiritual realm, and I mean, I think, when we say, hey, well, why pay 12.50 for a retreat, that's like lasting a weekend when I can do something similar to, just down the street for $100? You
exactly.
know, what is it about a retreat that makes it worthwhile? I mean, seriously, I mean, I've put on a couple retreats and, I've charged, I think 750 was like the biggest thing, but I also put people up for 2 nights, and brought all the food. So, I mean, I thought that was a pretty good deal. I mean, it had, 10 people. So, but I don't know. I mean, what makes a retreat worthwhile?
Oh, I'll tell
I
you what doesn't make it worthwhile for me. Can I tell you what doesn't make it worthwhile for me? Is when
Yeah.
it's a 2.5 day or 3 day retreat and a third of it's devoted to yoga classes. No,
Yeah,
no.
that's not my.
Oh,
I think
Well,
there
it's
has to
just
be multiple classes going on because not everybody is going to want to do yoga.
Well,
that's
And
true.
they're not though. When I read the agendas or the schedules on the, because I've looked at about 10, because I was serious. I wanted to go look up, go to one. But guess who got my intrigue going? Guess who said we should do one, Deborah? Miss Audra Watley. And I'm like, yeah, girl, let's do one. And I'm gonna tell you what, there ain't gonna be no yoga classes.
well, it's like when we were talking about speakers, we were talking about, this harmonic egg thing, and then talking about light frequencies and frequencies that are stored in jewelry, and I mean, it's varied. You vary things that you can interest more people in.
Well, I have to tell you, the best retreat I've ever been on, and it was so weird that I even went. This was like 12, 14 years ago, and I saw it on Facebook. And it said women's retreat. And I'm like, oh, that's only about an hour away. And I clicked on it, paid my bill, didn't know who was running it, didn't know what they were doing, nothing. Just what the hell? I'm a woman, let's retreat. you know. And Gail Hudson, who used to be on our original podcast, The Spiritual Neighborhood, was one of our co-hosts. That's where I met her. And it was the funnest thing. It was a big house, or it wasn't a big house, but it was a house. And so there had like 2 to 3 women in each bedroom, and some of them were bunk beds, and it was chaos. And uh, Gail brought all the food, and we all kind of hung around the kitchen when she would prepare all the meals. All the meals were prepared in house, and she had some activities scheduled for us. And there was a lot of downtime, and there was a horse that kept coming in the house. And
my
you
God,
open the door, and the horse was by the door, and we just try to come on in. And there was a lot of drama at times, and she had, oh God, what was her name? She had a belly dancer come and dance and show us some belly dancing moves. And I got into that. And Carrie Glazer came out and did a gallery, and we did a vision board, and we did something else that I don't think I ever did it right, but it had to do with color and drawings and stuff, and I'm not artsy fartsy. But it was the best time I've ever had in my life. I had a blast.
I mean, was there a focus or was it just like you did a whole bunch of different things to like enrichment?
You know what? I don't think there was a focus. If there was a focus, I wasn't focused. Okay. But let me tell you why it was so cool. I had a client that I was coaching at the time, and we were supposed to turn our phones off. And I said, I can't turn my phone off. I have a client that is semi-crisis state, and she went in full crisis. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And the whole group just rallied around me afterward because it was so emotionally strenuous and so emotionally draining. Because this person was suicidal. Okay. And I was already so open energetically and spiritually because of the different things we are doing. And I went with an intent to be, because I didn't have any women friends at that time. And I was trying to make more female connections and stuff. And so I was very open. I was wide open. And everybody just gathered around me. And I'm still conversing with a lot of the women that were in the group and stuff and things like that. And I don't know, I would classify it even with that little segment that was so, I don't know, it was hard for me to be that open. It was.
Well, that's the whole point of a retreat for women like that, is that they can rally around each other if there's a problem.
Well, they did. They had my back. It was really cool. They validated a lot of things that I was questioning. They made me question more things. So, there was answers and then were more questions. And I'm not saying that these other retreats don't do that for other people, but I think that there reaches a point where some of these things are like kindergarten, and I want college level. Does that make sense? I'm
Mhm.
not trying to be pretentious.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to be
That makes total sense. I mean, so I had an experience I was probably about 10 years ago. And it was a guys retreat. And it was all about not necessarily connecting with the feminine divine, but like acknowledging that even men have, feminine divine inside of them. And it was a retreat that, I mean, men got back in touch with their emotions, and how to say I'm sorry, and like acknowledge that they can be powerful, but they can also be loving. And so it combated a lot of the stereotypes, of the masculinity and, male bravado and, and so on and so forth. And it was gay, straight, it was, all kinds of men, but they were talking about the relationships and what they were doing inside of the relationships that were working and wasn't working. And like I totally get how women can get together and support each other. And I kind of found that same thing, in this retreat. And that's what made it really, really worthwhile for me. I mean, I still talk to some of the men that I met there.
Yeah.
They're like amazing people.
And I think it's a shame that men think they can't do that.
Mhm.
I mean, that's why women my age have trouble communicating with their significant other, because they've been told, you can't have emotions, you can't cry, you can't be involved emotionally.
Well, even if they try to do differently, they don't know how because they've never had a role model or an example put before them.
Correct.
So, it's kind of hard to emulate new behavior if you've never had an example. That's one of the things,
That's very true.
because that was one of the things that my spiritual mentor told me several years ago. He goes, one of the reasons why you have such a disconnect with general community is because your normal is not normal, but it's your normal. And that's what you're used to. And so you don't think, on one hand, you don't think it's bad when you do something that might be considered bad by other people, but you also don't realize how extraordinary you are because it's your normal. And I think that was probably one of the most powerful things I've heard in the past 10 years, for myself personally. But going back to the retreat I was talking about, I think the thing that impacted me, other than them having my back during that crisis situation, was being able to sit around the kitchen while everybody helped cook and just have that conversation, that connection, because I hadn't had any experiences like that since I was a child. Girls and girl children and women were always in the kitchen doing things, and that's when you would talk and share. And I remember my grandmother's telling me all these different stories and stuff, and I hadn't had that experience since we came to Texas. So that was so lovely to me. So when you say, oh, we got chef catered meals, I don't give a shit. I get that anywhere. Damn. I go to weekly events where I get chef catered dinners. I don't care.
Well, okay, so you were talking about the normal, and I think that we're kind of seeing, and I know I have seen this, that retreats are actually becoming like back into play again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting more popular. I mean, we kind of got away from it when COVID hit, and there was
Mhm,
like no like massive gatherings or anything else like that.
mhm.
And for a while, that became the normal. That became like, well, we're not going to get together for retreats because we can't, you know? And just now I'm seeing that it's like people are kind of branching out and getting back into the public mindset that I need this, I need connection. And so, I mean, what do you all think about as far as the new normal?
I like retreats when they work. When they don't work, man, I'm gonna be a bitch, you know? And
Well,
I think I love retreats where there's drumming and everybody gets crazy and you get naked and dance around the fire. Yes, I've done that. You know, clothes optional is really good for me, you know.
Been there, done that.
I like stuff like that. You know, if you're going to get down and dirty, let's get down and dirty. And I don't mean sexual. I mean, let's get
Mhm.
into our
Yeah.
bodies so we can
Have
get
the
higher
freedom.
in our spirit, you know? So
You
I
want
like,
the freedom.
yeah.
I see, I kind of see the new retreats, especially in the North Texas area, because for a while it was hard to find one in North Texas. You
Mhm.
always had to go to Austin or Houston or literally New Mexico or, Sedona. And there's some very expensive ones, going on in, Mexico and all over the place. I did an ayahuasca retreat. It was $300 a night, and they really recommended you eat very sparingly because of the medicine and the purge and all of that. So literally the whole weekend was scrambled eggs and potatoes when you did eat. Uh, but again, for me, it's the quality of who is putting on this retreat because they want you to immerse yourself for 72 hours. Technically, you go in at a Friday at like 6, you end on a Sunday at say like noon, and then you pack up for the next 2 hours or whatever. But they're looking for that immersion where everyone's there together in it, in the trenches or with whatever activities they're doing. But for me, I need to know who's this person facilitating it? What is their background? What am I going to be experiencing? What is their level? What is their
What are the
intention?
qualifications? What
Yeah,
makes them the
qualifications and
guru?
intentions with this retreat.
Exactly. Exactly. So, um, so we have like, I don't know, maybe there's professional jealousies going on when we look at these things. I saw one retreat and I'm like, oh hell no, when I saw who was running it, you know, and I know the person personally, I just don't like them, you know. So that's okay. And will they do a good retreat? I don't know. I'm not going to find out because I don't want to go. But then there are other people that you're like, what makes them qualified? Like I was
right.
looking up cacao rituals today. I get hyper focused sometimes. And first of all, it's really hard to find them. Um, one of the sites that keeps popping up number one, their ritual was in 2021. You're like, oh my God, take that website down. Um, and you're like, okay, so okay, I can do a ritual. Well, why? Why can you do a ritual? And why would I trust you to be exposed? Because you're exposing yourself, you know?
It's a form of medicine.
Yeah.
Any a cacao combo, eh, ayahuasca, anything. I mean, I know a gentleman that runs a cannabis church, and he does sacred cannabis ceremonies. It all has to be done in a sacred way. But for me, again, the practitioner, what is their experience in this? It's the same with ayahuasca. It's different every time they make it. It depends on the plant, it depends on the intention, and it depends on the shaman or
Yeah. Where do they get the
person.
plant from? What kind of quality is it? How do they fertilize it? How do they,
If it's fertilized, what is it?
yeah.
How is it done? Same thing with mushroom, whatever. I mean, it's all And I went through an experience with people that had mushrooms that were grown with Reiki energy versus just mushrooms that were purchased in general. Completely different experiences because
Well,
the intent was put into those mushrooms of healing. And I want to know if I'm going to experiment with a ceremony of some sort, who is that person and what are their qualifications? Where did they get their source products from? Are they trained medically? Are they trained in a background? I mean, even cacao, people with high blood pressure can have issues with cacao.
yeah, there better be a CPR person on site, regardless. I mean,
Is there
because
someone
I
with
will
a
sue
medical
your
background
ass.
trained?
I
Yeah.
will sue your ass if you don't, and I have a problem. Make no bones about that. But I did see a site today that cracked me up. It says cacao rituals, it is not the same as drinking hot chocolate.
No, it is not.
I love the
It
fact
is
that
not.
that was their first statement. Make this perfectly clear. This is not hot chocolate, people, and it is
Mhm.
bitter. So don't think about it.
And it's how it's prepared. I mean, I'm certified in that cacao ritual. I mean, and so I went through a 6 month class, with a shaman in Brazil, and he was like absolutely amazing, but he was very, very strict. He's like, this is the thing you need to know. You do not stray away from this. This is the protocol that you need to keep under. These were the things that you need to look at for the people that are there. And like he even said, there are going to be people there that don't have the mental capacity in order to finish the ritual, and you need to be able to say, I'm sorry, you can't go forward. I mean, that sounds rude, but I mean, if someone is like just opening their heart and being emotional about it, someone can have a breakdown right there and then.
They,
Yeah, I would
So
wonder if they're taking mental health medicine. Are they taking
yeah,
lithium? Are they taking,
yeah,
mood
absolutely.
stabilizers? If you're not asking
Before,
those questions, what are you
yeah,
doing? You
I
know?
had to do a full like 2-page form and follow a diet for 6 weeks to be allowed to do this ayahuasca ceremony.
Also, you could throw up. Are you kidding me? No, I'm teasing.
Paid money to vomit and poop. Yep.
Yeah, I hate the
I paid good
vomit.
money for that.
I don't know if
Well,
I could do that.
I fought it for years, and what was weird is I did not get sick during the ceremony.
Isn't
I
that
didn't
weird?
didn't have an issue, but I also had worked myself up into such an anxiety over it that I could not fully immerse myself into the experience the way I
Oh.
should have been able to do because I had so much anxiety over being ill. I let that take over.
Yeah, I don't want to throw. My eyes get black when I throw up. I get black eyes because all the blood vessels break. That's not pretty.
I make deals with God. I hate to vomit.
Yeah, yeah.
I, I'm not good with it.
But I understand what you're saying about the anxiety because I had that with the cruise last week, and I was
Yeah.
amazed at how great I was a pirate in another life. I know it. Because I took to that boat and I got my sea legs and I was rocking and rolling. Everybody's like bouncing off the walls because we had some high waters at times. And I'm like, I'm just rolling. And then I get on land and boom, I like to fell on my face. I didn't have land legs anymore. So,
You are a child of the water.
I know it was amazing. And I have said for years, I hate the beach. I do hate the beach, but I love the ocean. So that tells you I'm a pirate.
I love the ocean and I love the beach, but I can't swim. Yet I sailed for 3 years.
That's what life vests are for.
Yep, that's what I said.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yay.
Um, have you seen any kind of unique retreats, or is it the same recycled stuff that you've been seeing for years?
Same recycled shit. Except
I
now
have,
there's more yoga. Used to you'd get like maybe one little intro to yoga. And yoga, I don't know what's the deal with yoga. Obviously, I don't like yoga. And I don't like it for a lot of reasons. It's just not for me personally. Okay. I'm allowed to have an opinion. And but now the retreats are having like all day yoga, or you have two options for yoga every day, and you're like, what in Garland, conservative Garland, where I live, we have 3 yoga studios in downtown Garland. I don't need a retreat to go take yoga. Okay, don't need it, don't want it, not doing it. So I don't understand this focus of yoga in retreats. I don't get it.
Well, do you remember when we were talking about doing 2 days of classes and we wanted to start off with a meditation and kind of help people relax and then tell them what else we were going to do? We were going to do a class on our cards. We were going to do a class on chakras.
We have a lot of good things in our retreat but I would still classify our retreat as basic 101. Okay.
Yeah.
It's for beginners or people that are wanting to expand different options, you know? So I would like to find a retreat that's like going to take you into another dimension, but there's criteria for that, and Karen, you hit it on the head. What are their credentials? What are their abilities? How do I verify that? Which is another reason why they should think about being vetted, right? No.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Deborah. No, you are absolutely right. I mean, I can say that I'm a doctor. Okay. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, if I can prove that I can do something, then that's when I get credibility, I wouldn't let you take my word for it. I'm going to be like, you come, if you don't like it, you don't like it, but I'm not going to force myself and say, oh, I am the greatest cacao ceremony person in the world and I have this credential. No, it's not about that. It's about the healing that goes on inside of that.
Exactly.
So
You know what we
And
used
I
to
I'm
don't think
sorry.
teach the
people understand it.
parents? I'm sorry, what, Karen?
People do not understand what they're buying into. They think, oh, I'm just going to sit through a talk, or I'm going to drink hot chocolate. That's why they have that
No.
disclaimer there. People are not understanding what they're purchasing a
Or
lot
they
of
think I'm
time.
going to look really cute in my yoga tights, but
Well, it comes to intention and being, I literally had one lady want to do a cacao ceremony during her daughter's baby shower.
what?
Like, that is not the place for that.
Say I got really good
During a
hot
baby shower?
chocolate with some
That's what she
really good
wanted to do.
cocoa. We'll
The,
say a
the,
prayer. We'll drink the hot cocoa. We'll be good. Well, let me tell you something, Matthew. You really hit the nail on the head too, because when I was teaching classes at NAMI, and we were teaching the parents how to advocate with the medical profession for their children. The first thing I would say when you walk into that doctor's office, say, "What percentile were you in your class?" And if they're not in the top 10% of their graduating class, walk out. I want the best for my kids. And if they, and especially if they're under 50, if they can't tell me that they were, so what, they graduated medical school, were they in the bottom 10%? Were they in the top 10%? If I'm going to pay you, I want the best. And people would look at me like I was insane. Well, that's not the only reason, but that was one of them, you know? And I'm like, why would you not? Like you go and read Yelp reviews on restaurants and mechanics. You're looking for the best mechanic that you can trust because of your stupid metallic thing that takes you places, but you're not going to check that out for doctors or people that are dealing with your heart or your spirit. Get fucking real, people. It just drives me
Well,
insane.
even in my herbal business, I've researched the companies I buy from.
Absolutely. You
I,
make
I
sure
have
you have a pure product.
I have a high
Yeah.
standard for them. And if they can't cut it, then I don't buy from them.
Otherwise, you might just be buying oregano and not even know it, you know?
No, no.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think the quality, and I'm going to get some flack for this, but I
Oh,
think the
good.
quality of teaching today, okay, is not where it should be. The quality of teaching is you need to know your shit and you need to be able to walk your shit. Okay. If you are going to come into class and you are going to take and you're going to have to use a notebook and just read verbatim what you have written down, no.
No.
People would need to be able to come in and ask, what does this do for me? How does this heal me? How am I supposed to react to this? What do I do next? Okay. I just think the quality of teaching these days has just like chat GPT, you know?
Yes.
Very
Well,
much.
the other thing is you have to be able to admit when you don't know.
Absolutely. But
You
I
have
can
to
look it
say,
up. I can find it.
I don't know the answer to that, but I will find the answer.
Well,
You have to admit it.
and I'll tell you what, you want to piss me off really quick? Let me ask you a question and you avoid answering it. Okay? That'll piss me off faster than anything. And if I want to know what is entailed in that class, you better have at least a 3 sentence description of what I can expect to get out of that class.
Yes.
I'm not going to mention any names, but you know what I'm talking about.
We definitely have talked about that.
Yes, we have. Oh, you people, y'all miss the good stuff. I mean, y'all do. We talk before we get on the show, and y'all miss the good stuff. So, you
Well,
know, but Karen, I think you probably have been to more retreats than any one person I know.
I've literally only done one.
Well, okay,
But
let me rephrase classes, trainings, classes.
yeah.
I mean, I can't think of one time I've ever said, I'm interested in knowing more about this. You go, I did it.
Well,
Did
that's been
it.
my journey down here in Houston, and it was mainly with Shannon because he's got 30 years of experience, and like he said, he's got a basket full of certifications. But if you are not sure in what you're doing and believe in what you're doing and have the training in what you're doing, it's worthless. And this weekend we did a soul retrieval class, and there was a young lady there that had had a broken ankle that would not heal. What was interesting is when she was on the table, the leg that was not broken literally looked like it melted. And we all noticed this kind of energetically. 3 or 4 of us looked at her leg and went, what is up with that? It's like her leg disappeared from the knee down.
Oh, wow.
What had happened was Shannon picked up that she had been through an amputation on that leg. And the reason she broke the other leg was because she was bearing all her weight on that leg. Because energetically, she didn't have a leg below the knee. So the 4 of us that didn't notice this stayed behind when the class ended with Shannon to do further work with her to repair that energetically. And it was such a eye-opening experience to kind of notice something, but then get to the root cause and then cure it. And what was interesting when we were done with her, because she had full-on body experience, and she said afterwards, she goes, well, I've been going to this shaman and she keeps booking me for classes. And Shannon said, well, you had an entity and then you had this past life, thing that was still keeping you down. Plus someone had done some issues on her where they had also affected her legs to hobble her. And she goes, yeah, she's mentioned that several times, but she just keeps booking sessions with me. And Shannon said, well, we cleared all that up today because that's why you were supposed to be here. That's why you came to this class, is so you could get to the root of it and move forward.
Okay.
And that's a practitioner should do. Not if you see a problem, piecemeal it out to keep that money rolling in. That's wrong.
You know who else does that? Attorneys.
Well, that's a
Attorneys
small
will do that
business,
with your,
isn't it?
especially criminal
By that.
attorneys.
They're paid by the hour. That's what they do. I spent 14 years in that business, and my son-in-law is an attorney. So I see how that works a little bit because they have to be paid for their time. But I think as a spiritual person, if you see a person that's got all of these issues, if you can't clear it up in that one fell swoop, you shouldn't be nickeling diming them for the next 6 months. It's the same as a gypsy fortune teller that comes to you and says, I see that someone's placed a curse upon your head. For
Exactly.
$1,500 or $15,000, I can fix that for you.
But, and you know where I get most of my business, spiritual business from? Other
Where?
practitioners that refer people to me because they know I can do what they don't do. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's being ethical.
Yes.
That's being ethical. But so for the one person that watches this, I'm assuming we only have one person that watches this, but for the one person watching us, whether you believe in past lives or not, okay? Because I go back and forth on this all the time because I have evidence in my own life, but then I'm like, oh. So if you don't believe in past lives, what you can think about though is that they now know that memories are passed through DNA. So maybe that's not a past life that person is experiencing, but a past ancestor's experience. Or I fell asleep last night and I wish I'd finished it. I started watching this movie called The Electrical State. And it's about physics, quantum physics of how energy meets energy and how they were showing how they were putting our brains inside of robots. Okay. And this little boy got stuck in his robot and they were trying to get him out of his robot. I think that's what was happening. I went to sleep. So the point is, I got to go back and watch. The point is, though, is that whatever your belief system is, surely you believe there's energy and there's electromagnetic fields coming out of your physical body, and all these things are going on. So you can't definitively say that's not true.
Well, they've proven that those things exist.
Exactly.
Scientists have.
Exactly.
And if you've ever
I'm
seen
proof.
Joe Dispenza, have you ever seen Joe Dispenza? He does the one on Gaia that called Rewired, talking about rewiring your brain and
Yeah.
how you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and with the handwriting therapy, we rewired the brain by making the left and right brain actually form neurons to connect.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is happening after utero in a grown body. So, we don't even begin to understand any of that. So before you just dismiss us as crazy, we are, but that's not why, think about what we're talking about and how it might apply to your life.
Mhm.
So, okay, so I have, I have a story about, I think I've told you this story. I mean, I'm a kidney transplant patient, okay? And I got a transplant. I mean, the kidney, it was working great, so on and so forth. They had me sitting up in the bed the next day, and I was eating lunch. And of course, hospital food. One of the things they brought it was applesauce. Okay. Now I like applesauce. I mean, it was never one of my favorite things, you know, but I picked up this applesauce and oh my God, it was like the best thing that I ever tasted in my life. Okay. And one of the work nurses was going past my room and she backed up and she goes, Mr. Pierce, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, I could have sworn you were doing the happy tummy dance. And I was sitting on my bed and I was like taking it and I was just eating away because I was so happy, about this applesauce. Okay. And so like all of a sudden I had this like desire for if I was upset or I needed like, to calm down or I ate Mott's applesauce. Okay. I thought, okay, well, that's just something that happened. Well, fast forward about, this would be about fast forward about 5 years. We got a letter from the person who like had knowledge of the donation. Okay. And I found out that I knew this, it was an 18-month-old boy who his kidney I have. And one of his favorite foods
Was an
is
applesauce.
Mott's applesauce. And she goes, whenever he was afraid or whenever he was, like going through something traumatic or whatever, she goes, I would always give him applesauce
That is
and
so
it calmed him
cool.
down.
Well,
And so
that,
I'm living proof that energy somehow got
yeah.
entangled into my system.
Well,
And you might not believe me, but I'm telling you what, it's as real can be.
I think there are many, many stories with transplants that all of a sudden they had either an urge for something or it was an emotional something or there's stories out there.
Well, and people have explored this, forever. I mean, there was a Twilight Zone show from the 60s where this guy got a transplant of eyes, and from a serial killer or something. I don't remember the details, but, the person was a criminal. So he was starting to have all these urges and things like that. So, I mean, if my whole thing is, if we can think it, if we can just come up with the concept, there's got to be some validity to that, or why would we think it?
Mhm.
You know? So we may not understand it, we may not explore it, we may not be able to explain it, but if we can think something, then it becomes a reality, at least in our own mind. And that makes it real, because that's our reality. Was that profound? Was that profound?
Yeah,
That was
that was
profound.
profound.
Okay, okay. I've done my job for the day.
I mean, I think there's something to be said about spirit as well, because sometimes we just have these things drop like into our consciousness, into our spirit, that we kind of go,
Where'd that come
where the
from?
hell did that come from?
Mhm.
And so it's not an experience that we have a past, relationship with. It's all of a sudden something completely and totally new. And with it enough that our brain goes, that wasn't you. That wasn't you. And I think those are the times that we really need to take a look at those things and go, okay, well, what is this trying to tell me? Like, how is this an addition to my story, not a subtraction? And so, I mean, I've had those experiences as well. And some of them have been in retreats. So
I have good retreats. I've had good retreats. I love the retreats as a Girl Scout when I was a kid. Those were great.
I love the Boy Scouts.
Okay, don't get dirty
Okay,
in this.
I think that,
No. Do
I
you have,
think that,
oh, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, babe.
well, I think you're right, Deborah. I think if we can come up with a more varied program that people can get themselves into and understand what's going on for them, then maybe there will be more participation in that sort of
Yeah, because I don't
retreat.
want to teach them my modality. I want to teach people how to find their own modality, their own rituals, their what resonates for them to strengthen them so they can expand on that and become strong. Because okay, so let me go here with you. Okay. Has it thought crossed your mind that maybe this country is seeing this weird uprising of conservative Christians because they have banded together and organized energetically, and the other communities, spiritual communities, have not done so?
Hmm.
I have my own opinion on that.
Well, share it.
I think it's actually the opposite. I think that the communities that are more awake spiritually, they're the ones that are getting together and saying, what more is there? Okay. And we're starting to see what should not happen. Okay. We're starting to see kind of the opposite of what people are needing in the lives. And I think that spirit is just taking and going, do you want this? Seriously, do you want this? And it's waking people up like to the possibility there's something else. I really believe that this had to happen in order for us to become a spiritual nation again, not Christian, but a spiritual nation again. And people will come to me and go, well, why do you think this is happening? And I was like, because we need it.
Well, I agree with that part,
We
that we
need to
needed
understand.
it and it's happening so that we can grow. But I think that basically people got very lazy and very complacent and fat and sassy spiritually because things were easy. And so then it's almost like energetically and spiritually, it brought out the bullies,
Hmm.
you know? And we just kind of sat back and watched it. And because this has not happened overnight, people, it just hasn't. It hasn't. And, and I will never stop saying this, and I'm like a broken record. If women had gotten off their ass like they should have, and it started with Shirley Chisholm when she ran for president back in the 70s, and we had gotten the ERA passed like we should have been able to do, 90% of the stuff could not have happened because that ERA would have shut the door on all of it. It would have. So that's just my opinion. My phone's
Hey, it's valid. It's
Very.
valid.
So, not that I'm not saying that we deserve this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this is the natural consequence of lack of activity.
Well,
Well,
and there's,
okay, so I'm going to kind of liken this to a retreat or to learning because we've already established that we're not seeing anything new. We're not seeing anything that people can grasp onto. This isn't new, but it's always been there. And now it's just coming to the forefront. Why is it becoming to the forefront? Because that's where we're focusing our energy. Okay. I think it's the same thing for retreats. We're not seeing anything new because people are stuck in their own energy, in the same old, the same old. They're not willing to look beyond and say, well, what else is there? I mean, that's when you were saying about, you doing a retreat. It's not 101 anymore. Okay. People don't want 101 anymore. They want things that are going to go forward and like actually give them tools and opportunities to be able to like energize themselves and to like get better at life. And so I mean that's kind of where I come from. It's like, why are we not getting that? Community, wake up. you know why are you not teaching this?
I agree. So what's the answer? What's the answer? What's the solution?
I don't
What's
think
the
there's
next
any one
step?
answer.
I want an answer, damn it.
I think Karen has the answer.
I do too. I think Karen has a lot of answers. I think she's gonna blow our socks off in the future.
Well, I think when you're talking about, I don't want to teach you my rituals, I think people need to know what different rituals are and how they, here's what these people do, here's what these people do. If they have an interest in one or the other, then they're able to delve more into it. But a lot of people need to be introduced to the different kinds of rituals that people do.
My whole thing with rituals, I mean, I think everybody has a ritual, and if we break it down, it's about intent.
Mm-hmm.
When you are doing a ritual, it's about intent. What do you want to create? What energy do you want to forward? And so
Mm-hmm.
when we say, well, do my ritual, no, you have to personalize it. It has to be your intent. So
Right.
I totally get what you're saying. Totally get what you're saying. It has to be their ritual.
Okay,
And
so
there's no,
I'm gonna go out on a limb then. I'll throw myself under the bus. What I'm looking for in a retreat is a like-minded group that says, I don't want any more rituals. I want to walk with one foot in my body and one foot in the spirit world and be able to keep a balance because for me personally, I'm able to connect to God the way I want to, like that. Okay. What I have a hard time with is coming out of that when I reach that euphoria, for lack of a better word, and keeping myself anchored in the physical and still being able to pull that energy out of that euphoria and apply it to the energy that I need in the physical. I don't need rituals. I don't need candles. I don't need an altar. I don't need this shit. I don't even need to pick up the Bible and read it. God can speak through anything when that's your intent. And it is my intent.
Intent.
Okay.
Intent.
And so I don't need rituals. So I don't want to spend time at a retreat learning how to circle 3 times and blow out a
but those are not
candle.
the kind of rituals I'm talking about.
Well, you know what I'm talking. I'm using as an example. I don't have rituals. I do not have rituals, and I want to find some like-minded people to practice how to manage our intentions, I think, for lack of a better description.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I hate to talk about it because everybody goes, oh, you act like you're putting on airs. I'm not putting on airs. I'm desperate. There's a difference, you know. I'm still looking for a tribe, that I don't know. I don't know.
Well, everything that I've been watching on Gaia, it talks about what is your intent? What do you intend for this meditation to do for you? Or what do you intend to send to the world? How are you going to send out positivity instead of saying something negative about someone? That is a ritual in itself, but people don't call it that.
Well, I'm positive some people are bitches and they need to be told that. And that frustrates me when you call people out and they go, well, you're being negative. No, I'm being honest. It's like saying, oh, the fire is hot. Well, if you had
Really?
control of your body, that wouldn't burn you. Well, maybe, but it did, So is it negative or is it truth? Karen's wheels are just turning like a chariot. What is going on?
I'm just observing and thinking on all of that because that's what I look for when I participate in a class or an event. I mean, I'm going there with a certain intention when I do that class, and or event. And I would hope that whoever's holding it, they're holding not only the space for themselves, they're holding a space for everyone in that group. In
That's
that,
right.
and are they powerful enough to do that? And are these people coming in blindly, not knowing what they're getting into, or have they had a little background in it? And I was kind of thinking back on all the different experiences. I went to a meditation downtown McKinney at this little shop. The lady could not give me directions on how to find her. She just kept saying, look for the big water tower. Look for the big water tower. Well, if she'd said, I'm located behind the feed store, could have found her. Never gave her the physical address. I called her like 3 times searching for it, finally found it, very frustrated and agitated by the time I got there. Well, as I got to the door, she hands me this little caramel candy and says, here, this will help you with your meditation. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, well, whatever. I mean, and she goes, oh, by the way, it's Delta 9. I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
shit.
So I'm
Oh,
like, well,
shit.
so I ate half of it and laid down and did the meditation. Her idea of saging the room was holding it in front of the fan.
Oh, my God.
And one of the ladies there after the meditation was over, she goes, oh, by the way, she goes, does that show up on a drug test? And she goes, no, I don't think it does. I think it's okay. Well, of course it shows up on a drug test. This lady was a teacher.
What
But
the
That's,
hell?
and that's
But-
the kind of person you don't want to take a class from, the one who doesn't know.
yes. And I just thought, okay, this is a meditation. I just want to go and kind of like have a chill evening. So cool. I'll just, go with it. I did get exposed to the ocean drum, which she played beautifully. And I did enjoy that experience and actually got one purchased because of it. So it was a learning experience. But it's like, I don't know. Again, this is just someone that's taken a class online and says, "Oh, I'm a life coach," or I'm this or that. I mean, Matthew can understand. He's put 6 months into learning how to do a cacao ceremony reverently, properly, mixing it, doing all the preparation, making sure that he knows if someone's having too much of an issue, how to back them out and handle it. So not only does it not disturb the whole group, but they also have a positive experience out of unleashing something very harmful or hurtful in their existence at that moment.
Oh, my God.
It's like your oils. You tell them when they say, I'm looking for an oil for eczema. You're like, well, what type of eczema do you have? What is your skin type? What is your condition? Because you're going to treat someone with African American skin differently, slightly, than maybe someone that's a redhead.
And do you have any allergies?
What are your allergies?
What
There could
medication are you on so we don't have any interactions,
Yeah, and I'm just kind of looking at all these people out there kind of fumbling around doing stuff because there is no licensing. There is no anything other than I've took a course online and I've run into people all the time. And that's the whole thing about being a Reiki master nowadays. Everybody and the dog is a Reiki master.
It's because they learned how to spell it. For years, people couldn't spell it. Now they know how to spell it. Oh, we'll just add this to our name.
Yeah, they paid $2.99 for a course online and watched TV or played video games while they took the course. So I don't know.
You know what going to some of these classes reminds me of? It reminds me when I was very young in my 20s, and I'd get dressed up and I'd go out clubbing just to see what I was going to get into.
That's kind of it. What Friday night am I going to have?
Am I going to meet a guy? Am I going to get drunk? Am I going to get laid? What's going to happen? Am I going to need a ride home? What's happening tonight? Maggie, don't you shake your head. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That was,
Don't
and that was before Uber, so you had to.
Oh, yeah. Good Lord. We called it the thumb ride. In fact, I met one of my boyfriends because he was thumbing it one night and I picked him up.
Oh my gosh.
I just loved him to death, and he went to jail for bank robbery.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Was he
So yeah.
$40,000 in the vent?
It was fun. It was interesting. It was a good time. I'm the one that turned him in.
I mean, so what do we take away from all this?
Integrity matters.
That's very true.
You can have fun, but integrity matters.
And you have to, I think you have to open yourself up to questions when you're the instructor or the person, over everything. You have to be able to say, yes, I'm qualified to do this because. Like I was talking to someone on the phone the other day and they went, huh. I said, would it help if I told you that I worked in nursing forever? Oh, okay.
So we are not trashing the metaphysical community. What
Yeah,
we're doing is we're trashing any industry that is unprofessional, okay?
that's it.
And who cannot validate their credentials.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here. It just so happens that we're all
Metaphysical people.
healers,
Yeah.
Metaphysical people.
metaphysical people, holistic healers, and that's just where we're focused on because that's what the show does. So,
Well, I think my medical background gives me a lot of experiences with different kinds of modalities.
yeah.
And that's what helps me with the herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I do lots and lots of research on them before you ever see them on my website.
If you said it the English way, people would think you were more posh. I work with herbs, yes, because I'm from Northern England.
Because President Aiken.
I like the way the English speak. It seems more natural to me.
Aluminium.
Yeah. All right, we need to shut this thing down or I'll have to edit it to get it on TikTok and I don't edit. So if we keep it under 60 minutes, we're good. So,
All right.
all right. So Karen, tell them what you're doing and where they can talk to you or email you or call you or whatever.
They can email me at mamakhealingworks.com or reach me here at Miles of Smiles.
Yes. So Karen is networking for us and bringing us new clients. So feel free to contact her and say you need to book a gig. All right. And we promise to, we're all vetted and we're all professionals and we will give you a good job. All right, Dr. Pierce, tell them about you, honey.
You can get a hold of me at matthewapierce.com or matthew@matthewapierce.com.
That's it? That's all you're going to say?
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. All right, Luann.
Please email me at Luann, Luann, at ancientherbalapothecary.com. I will entertain your herbal questions or if you have a question about this podcast.
Absolutely. So as you can see, we're entertaining. Yes, damn it. We're gypsy fortune tellers, but we're so much more. So if you need some intuitive people to make all of your guests feel wonderful about themselves, contact us at fun@milesofsmilesevents.com, or you can find Deborah, Colleen, Rose all over Google. Just email me at anything you find and we will get you taken care of. And so this is Happy Hour. Were you happy with us at the Spiritual Neighborhood? And we will see y'all again next Monday.
Bye now.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye.